Publishers think subscriptions are the future of video games.
But what do we stand to lose in this subscription future?
Let's talk about it. Tam, Prince of Persia's out.
It is.
It is great.
Big game. First game of 2024, banger.
Absolute banger.
Yeah, it's
Loving
fantastic.
It.
So Ubisoft Plus Premium is the talk of the town currently. Another one of the many subscription services that are available to us consumers. The executive in charge of Ubisoft Plus. I'd like a Ubisoft Plus.
A little Ezio auditory plush. I think that exists.
Ubisoft Plus and subscription service at the company basically said gamers need to be more comfortable with not owning their games.
More arguments that have cropped up that we're having again and again because we are moving towards this all digital future, and from things like preservation is a very valid and very big topic, but also, you know, what if things get yanked or delisted? We had that recently with PlayStation or whatever, and it was like, oh, well, you know, we're not releasing those anymore, so I'm afraid even they bought them, can't have them anymore.
It's really unfortunate because like that can still happen now. Like servers go offline all the time, and that's predominantly the way that stuff becomes inaccessible in this day and age, it seems like. And it's a major issue right now where people are actively like raising awareness around the fact that games are just being turned off and being made inaccessible. So like that is a genuine issue, and in a future where everything is digital and subscription services where things come and go, you know, like that is more of a threat. Services like, let's look at is it HBO that has the absolutely insane executive who's like, let's kill that movie, let's remove that.
Oh, I'm sorry, do you mean Max?
Max, yeah. Wasn't him Zaslav?
Zaslav.
There could be a future where everyone's a Zaslav and is like, oh, we're just going to, for tax purposes or just to save us money, we're just going to get rid of the X, Y, and Z. And I think like that is a major, major issue. And it's not something that you can just like hand wave away. People need to be as open as, for example, I think the City of Heroes developers recently were like, here's everything.
Yeah.
You guys can you can bring it all back online.
Live.
It's up to you.
We
Go
just
and
don't
do
want
it.
to pay for it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And like, unless everyone's willing to do that, which companies like Sony and Xbox and all these others aren't going to be because they want to maintain control over IPs, like that's not a thing that you can like discount as being a major issue going forward.
We've talked a little bit about preservation stuff getting yanked and stuff, but it's this valid concern that developers are now starting to speak up against those. Yeah. Sven from Larian did a little tweet thread. A
bunch of really good points in there. The one that sticks out to me is the way it impacts the way games are made. Obviously, what he's saying is like people will start building games, or decisions on what games get made will be made based on how do they impact the subscription service. What if I change the way that albums are made? Back in my day, when I'd buy an album or I'd read an album,
when I bought a CD.
Yeah, when I bought a CD in the pre-streaming age, an album would be like 12 tracks, right? Or if you had a double CD, it would be 12 tracks per album, all about 4 to 5 minutes long per song.
Saying this, by the way, is making me feel so old.
Yeah. In the streaming age,
I've had Spotify for like 15 years.
In the streaming age, once that kicked off, the kind of major drive for them was to keep people listening as long as possible. And they realized that attention spans also were impacting this. So instead of having that same format, where let's say a single CD, single side would be 12 songs, 4 to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes long, they now have albums, you can go and find them fairly easily. Probably your favorite artist has done this, 24 to 30 songs that are about 2.5 minutes each. And that means like the songs are just like over like that so quickly.
TikTok as well.
Yeah, TikTok does that as well. But it means that the experience of listening to an album now is just like, it's so much worse than it used to be. Like you still have artists that are still sticking to the old ways, and I find myself gravitating towards that. But that's a case of the medium is being reshaped, not by the artists, but by the people who are in charge of the success of the subscription instead. And there's been plenty of artists, especially in hip hop, that have come out and said like, we've been forced to do this. Yeah. This is the way that we have to do it.
I remember seeing an interview with Adele, I think, and she was like, oh, I'm being told to make music for TikTok.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's not how I do it.
In a situation where what Sven is saying, whereas like the content is defined by the subscription service model, you end up with a situation where, for example, if it was right now, everyone in business of video games believes that games as a service is the best way to make money off people. In this future, everyone's going to be making even more games as a service titles to the detriment of like single player games or other types of multiplayer games. Everything's going to try and be Destiny, which is already what we're seeing a lot. Gotham Knights, for example, no need to be what it was. Suicide Squad looking like a games as a service title.
But do you think we're going to have that because we're having a games as a service crash? Like even, Bungie's not pulling in the numbers.
I do think, I want to believe that people will be like, oh, we can now diversify. But the issue is, again, I think like what also Sven is kind of saying and kind of hinting at, and what we believe it is, the people who would be smart about it aren't the people who are making those decisions.
Yes. Yeah, he does say that. He says getting a board to okay a project.
Exactly. It's the board, and the board don't care about the impact of your video game.
The board is still asking for the next Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. They want the next Fortnite, and that is it. And then the other issue that we have is, so I found this report from 2018 that I remember reading a while back and dug it up from MarketWatch, which was kind of like looking at the landscape of how subscriptions are adopted and used in America, and 84% of Americans grossly underestimate in 2018 how much they spend on subscriptions. And when they're shown an exhaustive list of subscription services and categories, which includes like Wi-Fi and mobile phone plans, and also like HelloFresh and digital newspapers and that kind of stuff, they realized that they were dropping close to like $250 a month on subscription services, which is 190% more than they guessed that they were spending.
And that was 2018, so that was before everyone hiked up the prices. That's when at that point, I don't think Paramount Plus was around.
No. The Federal Reserve warned that 10 American adults couldn't cover the emergency expenses of $400. So that's basically like people are not in a position to do essential things, and they're spending money on subscriptions. And the reason why that's important is because now the landscape of like their businesses now exist entirely focused on helping you cut subscriptions. Where it's like, I forgot where it was. Rocket Money, where it's like, we will look at your subscriptions and cancel stuff for you. What happens in a world where people like are forced to, or are like shown the realities of their subscription models, and they realize, oh, I'm spending way too much money in my life overall. I need to cut back on the subscription models, and they cut a few subscription models out, and among them are these gaming ones. If that happens on a big enough scale, we've now got a situation where these subs are like plummeting. The business overall, because we've invested so far in it, is now unstable again.
Yeah.
Like I feel like going so hard into this model is such a major danger. When people have a little more control over it, where they're like, I can spend $40 on this game in this period, I've budgeted for it. That in my mind is safer to me than I need to spend $30, $20 monthly. That in that second scenario, if I'm falling on hard times, I'm disengaging from games entirely, as opposed to being like, how can I make this one purchase work for me?
Matt Piscatella, who's a great follow if you're interested in industry stuff. He's an analyst at Circana, which used to be the NPD group. Subscription growth has flattened, and sub-services on console and PC platforms account for only 10% of total video game content spending in the US. And he says subs have been more additive than cannibalistic, offer players, devs, and pubs more choice in how to play, how to go to market. Fear-mongering on this topic is quite unnecessary. And so I think that's interesting. That is very, very good context.
Yeah.
But also, I think the way that the industry works and the way that execs like to latch on to ideas. I think it's still a very valid thing to keep bringing up and keep discussing, especially when you take into consideration preservation and overall ownership.
I'm one of those people where it's like, don't take away the option. I don't, and also I'm one of those people who's like very cognizant and mindful of how much I'm spending and subscription models and that kind of stuff. A future where the only way for me to play games is through being subscribed is not a future that I want to completely get behind, even if, as Matt points out, it's like not as widespread as it is. I hate to say it, but like once these board members decide this is what they want, it's very easy to force swings that way.
Yeah.
You don't own anything you buy on digital anyway, so
yeah,
sucks.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're back. Had a nice little break over Christmas. Went to Game Awards. Met up with a lot of devs, making some fun plans for this year. Thank you for tuning in.
Yeah.
You can find us on Twitter, tweeting about stuff. I guess. I don't know.
Like being weird on the internet. That's what we do.
Internet.
Yeah.
I'm at least James Games.
I'm at Timor H.
We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.